On the night of January 8, 1880, a man in a faded military coat collapsed at California and DuPont Street. By midnight, San Francisco had lost its emperor. Not a metaphor, not a nickname, but Emperor Norton I, ruler of a nation that never legally recognized him and a city that somehow did. Joshua Norton never seized power. He walked into print and declared it, and then an entire city decided to play along. Before the plume and proclamations, he had been Joshua Abraham Norton, a successful merchant in early gold rush San Francisco. He traded commodities, dealt in real estate, and moved through the city as a respectable businessman. Then came the collapse. In 1852, he tried to corner the rice market, lost a court fight, and saw his fortune evaporate. Respectability went with it. For years, he receded into obscurity, another man broken by a city that made and unmade reputations overnight. Then, on September 17, 1859, he returned through a newspaper notice declaring himself Emperor of these United States. The familiar title Protector of Mexico appears to have come later, likely in 1866. The strange part is not the declaration. Cities always generate prophets, eccentrics, and men who mistake attention for destiny. The strange part is San Francisco's response. Newspapers printed his decrees. In 1860, he ordered the states to send representatives to San Francisco to revise the nation's laws. Later, he dissolved the republic on paper and forbade Congress from meeting in Washington. Theaters reserved him seats. Shopkeepers and saloons accepted imperial scrip he sold to survive. The 1870 census recorded his occupation, with perfection, as emperor. His power was imaginary. The public cooperation around it was not. That cooperation became unmistakable in January 1867, when Officer Armand Barbier arrested Norton for vagrancy and lunacy. The city reacted as if etiquette itself had been assaulted. Newspapers protested. Police Chief Patrick Crowley released Norton and apologized, and after that, officers reportedly saluted him on the street. That is the real mechanism of his reign. Not delusion, exactly. Performance. San Francisco chose to preserve his dignity because he had become useful to the city's self-image. Eccentric, theatrical, tolerant, amused by its absurdities. He wandered in a blue uniform with brass buttons and a beaver hat, set off by a peacock feather, part civic ornament, part local conscience. One often repeated story places him between an anti-Chinese mob and its targets, reciting the Lord's Prayer until the crowd dispersed. The details are hard to pin down, but the anecdote endured because it fit the man the city wanted him to be. In 1872, Norton issued the decree that made his afterlife almost unavoidable. He ordered a suspension bridge from Oakland Point to Goat Island and on to San Francisco, then called for a survey to decide whether bridge or tunnel would be best. Later, generations treated this as uncanny prophecy. The reality is better. Bridge plans were already circulating in newspapers and committees. Norton was not inventing the future from thin air. He was taking the city's ambitions and declaring them in a grander voice. Many decrees later credited to him were probably written by editors for satire or politics. The legend was collaborative from the beginning, and then came the funeral, where myth still tries to outrun evidence. The famous version says 10,000 mourners joined a procession 2 miles long. The stronger sources suggest something narrower. About 10,000 people may have viewed his body, but the actual cortege was small, and only a few dozen people were present at the burial. Even in death, exaggeration attached itself to Norton, because he had become the kind of figure cities embroider. But the correction does not diminish him. It reveals what made him remarkable. Emperor Norton mattered because San Francisco kept choosing, day after day, to treat a ruined merchant as a public institution. No crown, no office, no army, just a shared agreement that this man, for reasons both ironic and humane, would be allowed a little majesty. The Republic ignored him. The city remembered him. That gap is why he still feels less like a joke than a warning, or perhaps a hope, about what a community can decide is real. Yesterday's craziness is never only yesterday. It lingers in the customs people keep long after the paperwork says otherwise. If you liked what you watched, please like and subscribe. We post interesting and crazy stories from throughout history every Wednesday and Saturday. Yesterday's craziness, because yesterday was crazy too.